Welcome. This is a last minute tips PowerPoint for the AQA GCSE RPE or RS paper 2 happening on Monday the 20th of May 2019. Let's jump in. So this is the themes paper, year 11s, the themes paper. You're going to be answering on 4 themes. You want to spend about 25 minutes on each one. Which themes, you ask? Well, you need to answer on A, relationships and families, B, religion and life, so far so good, 25 minutes on each. Then don't get caught out. Don't answer on C, religion and revelation and philosophy, whatever it is, because you might know things about that, but you have not been taught about that. Don't answer either on D, theme D. Do not, repeat, do not, religion, peace and conflict, because again, you haven't been taught about that in the classroom, so it's pointless. So skip on to theme E, religion, crime and punishment, and then finish off after that with religion, human rights and social justice. You'll be answering in an answer booklet for this one, so you need to space out the questions appropriately. More on that later. By the way, this all applies to students at Saffron Walden County High School, where I am currently teaching. If you've just stumbled upon this on the internet, obviously answer on the themes that your school has taught, and make sure that you're actually doing the AQA GCSE, otherwise this video won't be so useful to you. Yeah, so don't do C or D, think ABEF, A-B-E-F. First two, skip to last two of the themes that you can choose from. Okay? Hopefully no one will answer the wrong ones. It'll look like this. It'll look like this, your exam, when you're trembling with fear in the hall. Sorry, when you're calmly sitting prepared, ready to smash this exam. This is what will appear in front of you. Something like this. Paper 2, as we can see. And yeah, look, I've highlighted for you. Choose 4 themes. Answer on the themes you have studied. So at Saffron Walden County High School, that's A, B, E, and F. Some more help. Here's a little thing to flag up. This exam is the one that will sometimes refer to this phrase, the main religious tradition of Great Britain. What does it mean? I hear you answer exactly right. Well, actually, here are options. Does it mean A, Islam, B, atheism, C, Christianity, or D, non-religious? Correct. You are absolutely right. It means Christianity. According to the Conservative government, that is the main religious tradition of this country. I guess they are sort of right historically, even though the numbers are dropping technically. So yeah, when you see this phrase, think Christianity, talk about Christianity. And of course, when it says one or more other religious traditions, mention the other religion which you've studied, which at switches is Islam. So you want to be talking about Christianity and Islam. Look out for those phrases. And by the way, if they ask for contrasting, make the beliefs contrasting. If it's similar, make them similar. So on. Okay, here are some tricky words which might appear in questions. The trickiest ones that we want to make sure are sticky and have stuck to you. So remember, possibly the hardest one. Popped up a little bit in year 10 at County High, but not for long. The principle of utility. This is from philosophy. This is also known as the greatest happiness principle. Okay, so if you see principle of utility, think greatest happiness principle. It's the idea that you should do the action which brings about the most amount of happiness for the most amount of people. Would make sense to write that down. Write that down if you didn't know that. Don't worry about it too much, because that's kind of a stretch and challenge one, but they can ask you about it. You could use that in relation to the death penalty in Crime and Punishment. Some people would argue you should use the death penalty because it will bring about the greatest amount of happiness for the greatest amount of people if you remove murderers from society. Obviously, it'll make them very sad in most cases, but they'll stop killing people and they'll make the victims' relatives happy if that happens, and the rest of society happy. So that's the principle of utility. Exploitation, as you know, is misusing someone, abusing someone for something, for your own gain, for money. It means using people, and this is human rights and social justice, isn't it? So the ways that you've studied for AQA that exploitation can be carried out are people trafficking, unfair pay, so low wages, and excessive interest on loans, loan sharks. That's how the poor specifically can be exploited. Let's keep going. Let's make this video snappy. Capital punishment is the death penalty, isn't it? Write it down if you didn't remember. Capital death. Different from corporal, which will appear later, which is corporal is punishment towards the body, isn't it? Capital death, corporal body. Getting them the right way around. Community service, you know, well hopefully you don't know it first time because you haven't had to do it, but doing some kind of punishment that helps the community. It's more on the reformation side of punishment. Maybe litter picking, cleaning up different places, painting things. Punishment by helping the community when you've committed a crime. Euthanasia, not euthanasia like Ali G says. Euthanasia, assisted dying. Assisted dying when someone chooses, or it's chosen for them, for their life to be ended in hospital because they're suffering or they're in a coma. Evolution, overlapping with science here. Hope you haven't done all your science papers because this will be useful to you as well. A species adapting over time to its environment and therefore changing over time. It evolves, evolution. Family planning, planning to have a family, yes, but specifically limiting how much family you have, how many children you have, using contraception. I hope you're getting these. If you haven't got them, if you didn't remember them, write them down. It'll stay in your brain. Yeah, so you use contraception as part of family planning. Contraception is, if you family plan, you will choose to use contraception to limit how many children you have. Hopefully you know what contraception is by year 11 and aren't getting anyone pregnant. Corporal punishment, we said earlier, is punishment against the body, isn't it? So for example, getting caned like they used to do in the good old days at school. It's a shame we can't do it anymore. And in strict Sharia law, it's cutting off a hand, isn't it? So, well, if you've stolen something, your hand could be cut off in Sharia. Literalists and non-literalists, very useful. It was useful for the release paper. You might find it cropping up sometimes here as well. Literalists believe their holy scriptures literally, word for word, e.g. 6-day creation, 1-day rest for God. Non-literalists would not always take it word for word, often, but not always. So the things they understand non-literally, they would understand as symbolic or poetic. You look for the deeper meaning, the so-called deeper meaning behind the literal sense. Dominion is being in charge of the environment and animals, isn't it? Dominion, if you have dominion over something, you're in charge of it. Retribution, aim of punishment, retribution, revenge, payback, paying someone back for their crime. Retributive justice, payback type justice. Khalifa is the Muslim word for guardianship, okay? It's like the Muslim word for stewardship, which will come up in a moment. Taking care, being guardians of the planet, the environment. A bit like the flip side of dominion, the converse, the opposite of dominion, but in Islam. Discrimination, remember, discrimination is the action, the act of discriminating, treating someone unfairly. Discrimination, different from prejudice. That'll come in a moment. Forgiveness, you know what that means, letting someone go, releasing someone from holding their crime against them. Installments, when a baby gets a soul, happens at 120 days according to Muslims. So you could have an abortion before installment, but not after. So when the fetus gets a soul, installment, 120 days for Muslims. Deterrence, putting someone off from committing a crime. Another aim of punishment. Awe and wonder. Remember, awesome means originally it's to do with this word awe. It means being amazed at something. If you're in awe, you're in amazement at it. You're astonished by it. You're wondering at it. Sanctity of life, the holiness, the specialness of life. Positive discrimination. Discrimination, treating someone unfairly, but for a good reason, e.g. giving a certain racial group more jobs than others, because you're trying to tip the balance. Positively discriminating, not just negatively. Nuclear family isn't a radioactive family that's about to blow up. It's the traditional family model, husband, wife, 2.3 children. Okay, heterosexual, monogamous relationship, so one husband, one wife, having children. That's a traditional nuclear family, which religions like. An annulment is not a divorce. An annulment is not a divorce. It's not a Catholic divorce. It's different. It's when you say there was never a proper marriage in the first place for various reasons. Maybe the couple never slept together. Maybe the wedding was invalid. Maybe they were already married to someone else. That's an annulment, like Henry VIII got. Not a divorce. Different. Cohabitation, living together. Big Bang. Here's some more science revision. Year 11s. The Big Bang did not happen from two rocks crashing together. I do not know where this came from. There must be some dodgy video in science earlier on in education. The Big Bang is an explosion of heat and light and matter out of nothing. From nothing came the universe. Actually, the Bible and science agree on that. There might have been something before the nothing, but that's for A level. A big explosion of heat and light from nothing. The Big Bang, the start of the universe, according to physicists. Reconciliation, making friends again. Making friends again, repairing a relationship, being reconciled. Must nearly be there on this slide. Prejudice. So prejudice is the pre-judgment you make before the discrimination. So prejudice is the thought about treating someone unfairly. I'm judging you for a bad reason. Discrimination is the action of acting out your prejudice, treating them unfairly. Loan sharks mentioned earlier. Too much interest on loans, trapping people in debt and in loans. Unfair pay, mentioned earlier, not paying someone enough. Reformation, another aim of punishment, the crime and punishment. Punishing someone with the aim, it's not a type of punishment, it's an aim of punishment, with the aim of them reforming, becoming a better person. Community service, that type of punishment, community service, might go with reformation. Could go with reformation. Quality of life, having a good life. Hopefully you'll have a better quality of life after you've got this GCSE. Extended family, just the wider family, your grandparents, your cousins, your extended wider family. Polygamy, marrying multiple people. Monogamy, marrying one person. Polygamy, marrying multiple people. It's actually allowed in Islam for the man. You can have multiple wives in traditional Muslim countries because it's sanctioned. It's allowed. It's allowed in the Quran. Viable, possible. It's very viable for you to do well in this GCSE if you revise and keep watching to the end of this video and like and subscribe, obviously. Procreation. One year 11 in my class, when we did this PowerPoint, called it sexing. Let's call it having sex for the purpose of having children, procreating, making babies. Stewardship, there it is. Mentioned it earlier, looking after the environment and animals, like the English word for khalifa. Oh, it must be nearly there. Vows. You say vows when you get married, don't you? Promises to be faithful. Okay, so a really good thing to do now would be to go through your revision notes that you've made already, / your exercise books, or the school revision guide, and identify and write out, definitely write out because you'll remember them better, what you think are the top 5 most useful teachings to know for this GCSE RE paper 2. And just doing this activity will help you remember them. So I suggest that you pause the YouTube video and do this now if you haven't done it already. It's a really useful exercise. It'll help you review all the teachings, and by teachings, by the way, I mean quotes. So remember, religions teach things that they believe. There's not a whole lot of difference between beliefs and teachings, but in the exam speak, usually by teaching here we mean a quote from a scripture, something you could use in one of those 5 markers or 12 markers. So yeah, pause the YouTube video, go and do this if you haven't done it yet, and then when you've done that, come back and I'll show you my top 5 teachings. By the way, try and identify the ones that you think would come up most on the different papers you're doing. So what are you going to be able to use in multiple places, not in the same question over and over again, and not just spamming the same teaching, but that you might be able to use on the crime and punishment section, and religion and life, and even relationships, and the other one. What's the other one? Social justice. Okay, and yeah, come back when you've done that. Okay, now look at the top 5 from me to the RPE department. These are the top 5 I came up with when I did this activity, looking at what teachings are going to be most useful all over the place for this paper. In at number 5, for number 5, we have an eye for an eye. Now, note well, year 11s. Not all RE teachers actually know this or realise it. An eye for an eye, which is about retribution, isn't it? If someone takes your eye, you can take their eye back, is in the Bible, in the Old Testament. It's also, though, in the Qur'an. Okay, it crops up in the Qur'an, even though the Qur'an was written later. You get the same phrase appearing. We won't go into what reasons there might be behind that here, but this means you can use it as a teaching both for Christianity and for Islam. Very useful, very useful. Yeah, so it means retribution, that's what I just said. So it's in the Bible, Old Testament, and the Quran. Be aware as well, originally an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, that's how it finishes, was actually meant to limit retribution. It says, if someone takes your eye, you take their eye back. In other words, someone wounds you, don't kill them, don't take their whole body, but you're allowed to take their eye back. So it's retributive, but it was originally meant to limit payback. So allow some, but limit payback. Jesus actually, in the New Testament, this is Stretch and Challenge, he updates this saying in Matthew 5, I think it is, in the Sermon on the Mount. He updates it and he says, he changes it to, you have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, but truly I tell you, If someone strikes you on one cheek, turn to them the other cheek. So he takes that limitation of payback even further to the point where you don't take revenge. So the New Testament principle, updating the Old Testament, is don't take revenge. Show the person your other cheek if they hit you on one cheek, which probably in the Greek/Aramaic probably referred to walking away, showing them your other cheek by walking away. But again, we won't get into that too much. So very useful teaching. You could use this for crime and punishment especially, couldn't you? Because it's about retribution payback. In at number 4, then we have, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, said by God to Jeremiah in the Bible. So it's God speaking here, but the point is, even before even before we're babies in the womb, God knows us. So if that's true, then life is sacred, it's special. We shouldn't kill babies, goes the argument. So we all know the Bible says don't kill. So remember, you can use that. It's in the 10 Commandments. You can use on 3 of the themes that. This is similar though. It's about the sanctity. Remember, that means sacredness, specialness of life. So it's in Jeremiah, and it's God speaking to Jeremiah. He knows people before they're born, so life is valuable and should not be taken away. You can use that all over the place, can't you? Religion and life, crime and punishment, and well, human rights, social justice it can come into, and definitely relationships to do with abortion, euthanasia, contraception. Such a useful teaching, this sanctity. Here's a Muslim sanctity of life one, okay? Also very useful because you can use it in all of those places. In the Quran it says, do not take life which Allah has made sacred. There's sanctity of life right there. Oh, by the way, except by way of law, though. So that's the bit that says the death penalty can be used in the Quran, which is why in countries that follow Sharia, the death penalty is practiced, because it says it here in the Quran. But this is a Muslim teaching, very useful, because just like the last one, you could use it on crime and punishment, death penalty, or religion and relationships for contraception, not to mention abortion and yeah, just those ones. Or religion and life, abortion again, and euthanasia. Okay, so useful all over the place. Don't overuse them, especially don't use the same teaching more than once, for example, in a 12 marker, because that'll be the same examiner marking that 12 marker. But these useful ones, you can definitely use them in the different sections. Go right ahead. Yeah, and it says that life is sacred, however, capital punishment could be right if there's a good reason, a legal reason. Okay, in at number 2, getting close. If anyone saves a life, it is as if he saved all mankind, also in the Quran. So this is like a flipped version of the previous one, isn't it? It's another Quran sanctity of life teaching. It's a positive version, it's saying the same thing but kind of the other way around. So just like the last 2, where can you use it? Crime and punishment paper section, sorry, religion and relationship section, religion and life section. You might even find it cropping up somewhere on human rights, but make sure you're using it in place. And finally, in at number 1, we have, there is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus, said by St. Paul. But if you can't remember that, don't worry, it's in the Bible, it's in the New Testament. Remember, for all of these, by the way, even if you can't remember who said it, just say which bit of the Bible. If you can't remember that, even just saying the Bible is fine. Don't say the Quran, because it's not in the Quran, that's just wrong. But even if you summarize a quote without quoting it and say it's in the Bible, that's enough to get you marks in the 5 marker and even the 12 marker. So this is a very useful teaching, once again, because you can use it on social justice, or crime and punishment, or relationships, can't you? It's an anti-prejudice quote, isn't it? But even if you couldn't remember all of it, like I was just saying, even if you can remember a bit, that will work too. That will get you marks. You know, even if you just quote neither Jew nor Greek, or slave nor free, or male nor female, any of those little bits, that'll get you marks if it's relevant. So be clear, this is saying that people who believe in Jesus Christ are all equal, and their differences should not separate them. Yeah? So the Jew nor Greek bit, that's anti-racism, isn't it? Slave nor free, that's anti-slavery. That's why you can use it on human rights. Male nor female, that's anti-sexism. Yeah? Male and female are equal, so yeah, don't discriminate based on gender. That's what it's saying. A similar and also very useful teaching, which we could have made number 1, is God created mankind in his image, in his own image. We're made in the image of God, also in the Bible, but that's so commonly known that we didn't need to put that on the revision PowerPoint, did I? There was no need for that. So those are your top 5 teachings. Really quickly, here are some exam technique reminders. This is very helpful to go over quickly before you dive into the exam. 1 markers, just tick a box. In fact, if you've got an answer booklet, which you do for this one, just write a letter. Write the correct letter, move on. Don't write out words. Don't write out the answer in full again. No, just what letter, or yeah, from what box do you need. 2 markers. Again, this is very important when you're writing in an answer booklet and not in set space, which shows you how much to write. Do not write lots. You're only going to get 2 marks. So you only need 2 words, maximum 2 sentences. Okay? Do not write more than 2 little phrases, 2 little sentences for a 2 marker. There's no point. It's only going to get you maximum 2 marks. Though you do write a bit more for 4 markers, don't you? So remember the golden rule for RPE exams? Read the flipping question, RTFQ. In fact, the golden rule for any exams, but it's so important for RPE because they're going to ask you about similarities, differences, or contrasts, and to mention different religions. Don't be the Wally who doesn't get no marks because you just haven't read the question properly, so you do differences where it should be similarities, or you do 2 Christian things instead of a Christian and a Muslim, or 2 different religions, whatever it is. Read the flipping question, and that will serve you so well for this GCSE and your GCSEs and exams and life in general. This is education for your whole life going forward, isn't it? If you can't remember particular groups, use the other magic word in RPE, some. Good old some Christians, Muslims, or other Christians/Muslims, because that's always going to be correct, isn't it? If it's all of them, then that's some of them, so you're right. If it's just some of them, then that's still some of them. So some is the best word to use because it's vaguest, but it's still it's not inaccurate. So it's a very, very handy word if you can't remember particular numbers or majorities and minorities. Oh yeah, remember 4 markers as well. You want 2 points explained properly. Don't forget to explain the points in your own words. So that's about 4 sentences, isn't it? And 5 markers, just exactly the same. Sentence explain, but you need the scripture reference for the 5th mark. So something from the Qur'an or the Bible, the relevant religion. And remember, if you can't remember a direct quote, just summarize. In the Bible it says men and women are equal. Oh, that might just about get you the mark. If you can say neither male nor female from the New Testament, that's even better. But if always better to write something if you can't remember, have a go. Try and summarize what you can remember. And then you've got the dreaded 12 markers, haven't you? But a 12 marker, don't panic. It's still RTFQ. It tells you everything you need to do in the question. If you do everything it asks you to do in the question, you'll be absolutely fine. And here's a bit more help with 12 markers. Oh, excuse me. So, this advice came from Miss Khan, who's a fantastic teacher, currently teaching at Saffron Walden County High School as well. And she's been an examiner for AQA, so she knows what she is talking about. Here's her advice. 12 markers should be well argued and detailed. You need 2 sides. You've got to do the for and against. People could agree with the statement because, or others could disagree because. You want 2 points for each side, okay? Don't get caught out. Don't just do 1 on each side. 2 nice points for each side to get all the marks. Don't forget to link your arguments back to the statement. And you must include religion. Now, this is so important. Sometimes Year 11s do not get marks, especially for this paper, because they write brilliant essays on whatever it is, capital punishment, abortion, euthanasia, human rights, whether we need laws, this kind of thing. And they're very intelligent, but they don't say anything about religion or any religious teachings. It's an RPE exam, guys. It's an RS exam. You need to talk about religion in order to get all the marks. You can say very sensible things, but say nothing about Christianity or Islam or what have you, and therefore not get more than, well, maybe 6 maximum if you haven't referenced religious teachings. Okay, so relate these themes to religion. You have learnt religious beliefs and teachings about them, so use them. That's why you're revising them. Another point, big one. You must include evaluation and finish with a strong justified conclusion. What does that mean? Well, it means you need to make judgments on the argument. These are essential for if you want the top level, if you're aiming high. You want phrases in there like, this argument or evidence is robust or strong or weak, inconclusive, insubstantial, convincing because. Those kind of things are useful. What you're doing is you're looking at the 2 sides you've talked about in the first part of the essay, first part of the answer, and you're deciding which side are you on by making extra commentary on those points. E.g., I agree with this side of the argument because. Why do you? It's that because and the stuff that comes after it. That's what evaluation is. That's what justifying your conclusion is. Okay? So for example, if you've done both sides of capital punishment, now you need to make more extra points about why you agree with the side you're on. By that I mean looking at the points you've already talked about and explaining why they are most convincing to you. For example, I am against capital punishment, having, let's say in the essay above, looked at the Christian arguments against it, because I find them compelling, because I agree with the idea that if you pay back someone for taking life by taking their life, you're just as bad as them. It's hypocritical. You're doing the very thing that you didn't want them to do. I might also say, and I agree with Jesus' teaching in the New Testament about turning the other cheek, where he updates the eye for an eye teaching. In fact, if you hadn't mentioned that already above, that would be a great place to sneak it in as part of your own evaluation in order to get the extra points there. That could be a good tactic. Don't hold everything back, but if you've got a little bit you can hold back and then bring it into your own analysis in the end. That could be a cunning little tactic to boost you up to the top level. Don't forget your paragraphs there as well, so these must be written in paragraphs. You want a minimum of 3 paragraphs, one giving arguments for the statement, one giving arguments against, and a final conclusion.